thank you all for coming out. We really appreciate it. This is what we need, is a chance to talk to people, tell you what we're about, why we're running. We would have liked to have had a kind of 4-candidate debate. We haven't been able to get the other candidates to agree to that. So in the absence of that, we've tried to have a bunch of different events so we can talk to people, get to know people, and give you the best education we have. Now, I don't know how involved you've all been in politics. I see a lot of familiar faces, but it's difficult. It has been difficult for the last couple of years. Last night we had a particularly difficult meeting that we had to get through. At times you wonder, why am I doing this when I have young kids, I have elderly parents, I have all sorts of obligations, all sorts of things I could spend my time on. So this morning when I got up, I was kind of going back through some old emails and trying to figure out, did I really achieve anything that I wanted to achieve? You know, am I still the same person as when I got into this horrible mess? And I came across a particular email that made me feel really good. It made me feel like I am doing what I set out to do. I am still the person that I was then, and I think we've been successful. And I just want to read this email to you. This is from 2012. I was not involved in the council then. I was attending meetings because after the cell tower went up in 2011, I realized we were all asleep at the switch, right? So we had no idea that was coming. We had no ability to stop it, and part of it was the government not pushing information out. Part of it was us not going to meetings and absorbing any of the information. So I started to go to the council meetings regularly, but never had any aspirations of doing what I'm doing today. And then I got a letter in the mail that we were canceling Allendale ambulance service after 75 years of being together with them. And on the heels of that, we got a letter saying we were canceling Saddle River Valley Rescue Service as well. And that kind of spurred me to write a letter to the mayor. And as I read it, I realized that 2016 Corinne is the same as 2012 Corinne. And I want to read this to you so that you can see, you know, how I kind of got involved in this and what's important to me. But it was from April 2012. Dear Mayor, I received the attached letter from Allendale Ambulance this evening. If you didn't get a copy, I wanted you to have one. Jim and I have supported both Allendale Ambulance Corps and the Saddle River Valley Rescue Squad for years. Both have responded to our home when my elderly parents had accidents or medical emergencies. I wanted to privately voice my concerns to you about the loss of these services. I am troubled on a few fronts. Number one, I understand that Valley Hospital is now here stationed at our firehouse, but as I understand it, this could change at any time. And since we've now lost coverage from 2 alternate sources of local emergency services, are we at risk? Number 2, are there any other services that we're in danger of losing due to funding cuts or our perceived lack of ability to reciprocate in mutual aid? Number 3, I know I don't understand all of the dynamics, but it seems to me that the demise of volunteer services can't be helpful in moving towards smaller government, which is a mainstay of our Republican Party platform. And number 4, we're cutting relatively small costs from our budget. At the same time, we're spending big taxpayer dollars on things like a new park entrance or the proposal to move historic buildings around town. You're also likely aware that Wandell is in the middle of renegotiating their contract for middle school, and it can't be helpful with our relations with other towns to be cutting our funding to their services. So please, Mayor, consider meeting and talking with residents that are outside your normal circle of contacts to find out what is on people's minds. In my humble opinion, there is such a small circle of people surrounding you in town politics that I don't believe you're always getting the grassroots feedback that you need. Thanks for your consideration. As always, I welcome the opportunity to discuss this with you, realize the demands on your time as the NJGOP chair. That was 2012, and that's what we're about today. Public safety, making sure our families are safe. We've actually brought Allendale Ambulance back. Who knew when I wrote this letter that I would be able to be a part of that? That was fantastic. We went to them hat in hand, and they were the most gracious people that are passionate about patient care. They came back willingly, and they back up Valley Hospital. We did lock in Valley Hospital with a contract. We did not have one. That would seem odd to me, but we didn't have one at all. So they can't just pick up and leave us on a moment's notice. And I think everybody in this room probably understands the success of the firehouse, and that is due to these guys that are here in this room today. That politicians have nothing to do with that. And this is actually a historic evening because 2 years ago today is the first time I ever emailed Brian Yates to ask him if he would come and meet with the Public Safety Committee and give us advice on how to get ourselves out of the horrible situation we were in with 6 firefighters and 40% of the calls being missed. And within 24 hours, we had an email response that Jake and Brian would both do that. They would meet with us, they would come, they threw us a lifeline, right? So not only did they save our town in terms of safety, they save us $3 to $5 million a year every year that we know we would have had to pay to Ridgewood to cover us, or we would have had to pay our own guys in the firehouse. And that cost just grows every year, as with any department. So I don't think we've ever been stronger in terms of public safety, honestly. The police department was brought back to full force after some of those burglaries. There was a little bit of cat and mouse game going on because the police contract was coming up. And so they were trying not to restore those jobs while they're in the middle of that. That's not appropriate to risk our safety, so that was fixed. Fire is unbelievable success, all due to these guys. EMS is in great shape. The town has a different attitude towards the school now. I think there was a lot of friction before, but with the support that we were all able to give the school during the HVAC referendum and various other things, I think we're on a much better and much healthier track there. Financially, we're great. Our spending was growing at about $440,000 a year, between 5 and 6, 7% every year. We didn't have, we had things to show for it, but I really didn't understand it. But with no loss of services, we are now, in the last 3 years, we've spent only about $10,000 more each year. How do we do it? We have a lot of old, overpriced contracts, I'll be honest with you. We had a borough administrator for 20 years. It's real easy to get into a pace where, you're just kind of doing your job and rolling over contracts, and costs keep rising. We're looking through every single one of them, and just by not even changing vendors sometimes, just going out and repricing it, we've been saving a tremendous amount of money. Everyone's helping, all the department heads, all the council people, really focused on it. So we're on a good trajectory on the financial side. And in terms of transparency, that is an ongoing process, I'll call it, but it caused the problem with the cell tower. We caught it before the town hall project, and we were able to get that information out. Kind of revived itself a little bit recently with affordable housing, where I wasn't particularly pleased with the way and the process that was going to be shared with you all. But you can count on, Paul, Eric, and myself that whatever we are legally able to tell people, we will do so. The next thing that's coming is we're putting in a new website for the borough. It's going to be a lot more interactive. We really think that technology is the answer to transparency. It can turn our borough hall into a 24/7 borough hall where you can do everything on the website that you can do by going to town hall, pay your taxes, pay your parking tickets, fill out a permit, get forms. Nobody should have to take time off to come to borough hall, that's for sure. But it's a process, and it takes a lot longer in government than in the private industry. So I think I underestimated how long it would take for me to get my to-do list done. So here I am again in front of you. But whether we get reelected or not, it's really your decision. It's all of your decision, because I will tell you we have a huge disadvantage this year by where we have been placed on the ballot, and it was deliberate. Normally incumbents are placed on the Republican line with all of the other Republican candidates. But if I might just be able to show you that when you walk into the polling stations on June 7th, you're going to have to look all the way over here in another zip code on the right-hand side to find us. We're in column 5 with candidates that aren't even running anymore. You've got, Cruz and Kasich and everyone else there, but we're over here in column 5. Believe it or not, there's a lot of voters that just don't know anything about what's going on in town. They'll come in, they'll vote right down the Republican line, and they walk out again. So that's the challenge that we're facing. So we will get up and keep fighting the battle that we've been fighting to try to get this government more respectful of citizens, more inclusive of citizens, and more reflective of what you want in this local town. But you guys have to make the decision whether we get in or not, because it's going to be a matter of making sure you show up or you take a vote by mail. But we're also going to need you to talk to a couple friends. If everybody can take 2 or 3 people aside and explain to them what we're all about and what help we need, then we can get there. This election's probably going to come down to 40 to 50 votes between it. Paul runs statistics on this stuff all the time. He's a whiz at this. But just last year when Ron Yates was running for council, he lost by 22 votes. 22. People got stuck on buses. They couldn't get out of the city. They were out of town when they didn't think they were. It really, every vote does count. So we're excited to keep serving. We're excited to keep the momentum going. We have a lot of folks from the fire department here who are neighbors, friends, residents, officers. Please, I encourage you to talk to them. They're some of the best people that I've gotten to know. I didn't know a lot about firefighters, but now, I know that these people will get up from a family meal and go to a fire call, or they will get out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning when my phone goes off and I just get a text, but they have to get out and go, and they'll leave their grocery cart in the middle of a grocery store to answer a fire call. I mean, it's tremendous. They're just unbelievable people. And a lot of them, we all leave that each other. And they're not getting paid. They do this all for free. So I couldn't be more pleased about the people that I've met during this process. I could do without the negative campaigning, but that's part of the gig. But I'm really excited to be running with Brian Yates. His family and his family business have been investing in this town for 30 years. Brian's been serving for 30 years. Every time he gets up from his desk and leaves a sales-based business, that company is losing money. And they do it every year and every year and every year. And Ron serves on environmental, and Gail's involved in the Valley Club, and you couldn't ask for better people to be your running mate. So I'd love it if you don't know him, that you get to know him tonight, and I'll turn it over to him. Thank you, everybody.
By this time tonight, you know that this is a very special lady. And you know that she is bright, she is competent, she is dedicated, and she's devoted to make this town a better place to live. And in spite of all of the harassment, the nastiness, the bills that she's faced, I am very proud to call her my friend and to call her my running mate. And she has my absolute support in everything. I only wish that I could be the butt of all of this aggressiveness. It is nasty, it's disgusting. Second campaign in a row that we've had, and it all derives down from
third
County Republican.
Thank you, Eric.
From a guy named Uden who lives in Wyckoff, who I doubt has ever even visited Saddle River, but sees fit to take the Saddle River Republican Party decision and displace it to some other place on the ballot and put his own people in on the column that is the Republican column. And I would only ask you to ask yourselves why. It is because he wants a power structure. He wants yes people. And our town has had yes people on the council. Yes, Mr. Mayor, yes, Mr. Administrator, never asking a question. This guy Toomey that's running against us, I can say he's my friend. He's a good friend. I've known him for a number of years, but he is a yes man. When Gail and I realized, my wife Gail and I realized that the fire department was going down the tubes, I called him and asked him for a Sunday morning meeting at his house. And Gail and I went over and met with Penny Neal and Mike Toomey over a 2-hour period. And Gail and I outlined all the problems with the fire department. The mayor's new stipend program that was doomed to failure because he was going to pay 5 or 6 guys or 4 guys or whatever to sit in the firehouse at night, overnight, so there would be somebody there to go on a truck. And then when alarm sounded, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and some guy's volunteer's alarm goes off, and he wakes up and he says, they're getting paid for it, let them do it. And so predictably, morale went down the tubes, the fire department dissipated, and it was necessary to call Brian and Jake back and rebuild the fire department. So we rebuilt the fire department. Corinne, Paul, myself, Brian, Jake, campaigned for it, long and hard. It took a lot of campaigning. At first, Kerpis was very resistant. Councilman Kerpis was very resistant. Corinne was persistent. And finally, she got him to go down and sit with the chief in Hohokus. And the chief in Hohokus said, if you want a fire department, rebuild in Saddle River, bring Brian and Jake back. And Kerpis says, well, why don't you have them in your department? He said, they're loyal to the Saddle River Fire Department. They want to be on the Saddle River Fire Department. So they came back. All right, that's long story short. Now we're in election campaign and we have the same stuff thrown at us. Again, if you see these hate mails that come out, it's despicable. This is an upscale town, a town of educated, competent, independent thinking people. And they throw this stuff at you and they expect that you're going to believe this. And Corinne Kerner is a holy terror. She should be run out of, if she was living in Salem in the 1600s.
She'd be on that ball.
Yeah, oh yeah, the witch, okay? Well, I can't get them to call me a witch, but the reason they do this is for one purpose only. Right now, there are 3 people on the council, Paul, Corinne, and Eric, who ask questions. We have 3 other people on the council who are robots. Yes, 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 Mr. Mayor, yes, Mr. Administrator, whatever you say. If you don't elect Corinne and I to change that majority to questioning people, it will be life as usual. So they single out one person. They could have singled out me, but I was not on the council, so they can't call me divisive. They can call Corinne divisive. She is not divisive. She is questioning. There's a hell of a big difference there. I made the analogy a couple of weeks ago that divisiveness is one end of the extreme, lockstep is the other end of the extreme. And lockstep is where we have been. And somewhere in between is where we want to be, which is where Corinne is, Eric is, and Paul is. That's in that middle zone where you can question. And if you finally get the answers you want, you can vote yes. If you don't get the answers you want, you don't think it's right, you vote no. Mike Toomey has never voted no in 2 terms. Paul, how many votes was it?
559. Wow.
Is that a questioning man? Is that a question? Is that a man with his own mind? Ron Gray, how many of his knows?
Well, after...
When he shows up.
After March of 14, very, very few.
Okay.
He actually voted with purpose, because that was the relevant link.
Okay.
Every time
Okay.
since that time.
Let me ask you a question. If you are volunteering for some position, and I'll give you an analogy to this very shortly. If you are volunteering for some position that's as important as council in the town, where you're making decisions about the future of the town, and you take a job that has you in Chicago 5 days a week after week, month after month, what kind of a job can you do for Saddle River out of Chicago? You're reading Chicago newspapers, you're in Chicago talking with your business affiliates, whatever. You can't possibly be focused on Saddle River. I'm on the Environmental Commission. He has missed every meeting. He is the liaison, and he's missed every meeting this year. Landmarks, whatever else he's on, he's missed half or more of them. He's missed 5 council meetings. He should be called to resign. I have suggested that we should call for his resignation because he is not doing what he was elected to do. He's not elected. He was elected to be here, and he's not here. You have an obligation, I think, if you believe in Corinne and I, to go out and say to your friends, your neighbors, you better get to know these 2 people that are running for office, because they have something to offer you that the other side does not. The other side is offering you hate and all kinds of nastiness. These people are not saying anything nasty. Nothing. We are following a policy of our objectives. They don't give you one thing to defend what they have done because they haven't done anything. So I will leave you with that thought. It's enough. Have a good night. Enjoy.